Henry Cejudo was treading the path to greatness when he shockingly announced his retirement in 2020. And now, he finds himself in a precarious spot, where many greats of the game have lived long enough to see themselves become the villain. Will Triple C reclaim his lost glory in the form of the UFC Bantamweight title? Or will he end up like the ones before him? Let's find out. Born and raised by Mexican immigrants in Los Angeles, California, Cejudo dreamt of making it big in life since childhood, and he achieved most of his dreams at a young age. At 21 years old, Cejudo became the youngest American Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, but that was just the tip of his iceberg. Underneath his most shining accolade was a series of wrestling wins nationally and internationally that solidified the Mexican as a legend, who wanted to push his boundaries. And since there's nothing that pushes one to their breaking point quite like the brutal and unforgiving world of mixed martial arts, Cejudo opted to walk the path of legends. In the first 2 years of his entry into professional MMA, Cejudo bagged a record of 10 wins and 0 losses. The young Mexican's wrestling was out of this world, and his striking was improving by the day, so it was obvious that he was above average. But talent alone doesn't win big fights, and the Olympian found it the hard way when he challenged the GOAT, Demetrious Johnson, for the UFC flyweight title in 2016. Needless to say, he was blown away in half a round. After losing to Mighty Mouse, Cejudo then lost to perennial contender Joseph Benavidez, kick-starting his road to recovery and improving his skills by the day, before taking on Demetrious Johnson once again 2 years later. Only this time, he knew the answers to the questions that Johnson posed. Defenses, the greatest in UFC history. Johnson parted ways with the world's premier MMA promotion after his loss, but Cejudo continued to defend his title before moving up to Bantamweight, where he beat Marlon Moraes to win the vacant title and defended it against Dominic Cruz at UFC 249 in 2020. On the biggest night of his career, however, Cejudo surprisingly rode into the sunset, and that too at the peak of his powers. Why would someone do that? It was an atrocious move because back then, the UFC Bantamweight division wasn't as stacked as it is now. Had Cejudo chosen to fight a little longer, he would have bagged a few more title defenses against the likes of Jose Aldo, Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling, and even Corey Sandhagen, who was a very favorable matchup back then. Cejudo was at the peak of his powers, both physically and mentally, and he looked invincible. Then why would he make a hasty decision? As Dana White often says, if you feel like retiring, do it. Maybe Cejudo wasn't to end his career on a high, but in that case, he shouldn't have returned in 2023. From May 2020 to May 2023, Cejudo sat on the sidelines for 3 years, which is close to 1,000 days and 86 million seconds. Now, the reason why I'm doing all this weird math is because MMA is a sport that changes by the second. Things evolve, fighters improve, strategies change, and people get figured out unless they are on the same level as Jon Jones or Khabib Nurmagomedov. Make no mistake about it, Cejudo is one of the greatest fighters of all time. But is he an unbreakable force of nature like Jon Jones? Is he mentally tough enough to return after a 3-year layoff and battle guys like Peter Yan, Sean O'Malley, Umar Nurmagomedov, and Merab Dvalishvili, who, by the way, is his next opponent? Skills aside, does Cejudo have the same hunger and intensity as someone like Umar and O'Malley? Or even Marlon Vera? Sure, Cejudo produced a banger of a fight against Aljamain Sterling at UFC 288, but he still lost because his wrestling wasn't as effective. As good a striker as Cejudo is, wrestling is his bread and butter, and if that fails, He will struggle against taller guys who have a significant reach advantage and are technically a lot better than the former champ in the striking department. Cejudo isn't young anymore either. He is 36 years old right now and is touching 37, which is not an ideal age for smaller fighters. Most fun-sized competitors are well past their primes at Cejudo's age. They are not as sharp as they once used to be. They are not as clinical, and their body doesn't react the way their brains want it to. It was different when Cejudo fought Marlon Moraes or Dominic Cruz. He was in his prime, but most importantly, he was active, and that is the key. While it's true that Cejudo was active in the gym, sparring in a training session and fighting regularly in a cage and under bright lights is as distant as land and sea. And we will get a better idea of where Cejudo stands when he battles Merab Dvalishvili, a machine of a chain wrestler who never runs out of gas. The Georgian is a high-intensity fight for anyone in the UFC Bantamweight division, and his skills and technical prowess are unmatched. I mean, who else has taken down Peter Yan 11 times in the octagon and kept him there for a significant amount of time? Will Henry Cejudo's Olympic gold medal help him stop Merab Dvalishvili's wrestling onslaught? If yes, then Cejudo has a very solid chance of bouncing back into the win column with his nippy striking. If not, then he should retire once again, because it'll only get worse from here on. The new age of UFC bantamweights is very advanced, particularly with their wrestling defense. Aljamain Sterling couldn't touch O'Malley. Corey Sandhagen has taken his wrestling defenses a few notches up. Marlon Vera is a hard man to take down, and Umar Nurmagomedov is a Sambo world champion. Should we back Henry Cejudo when the odds are heavily against him? The truth is, Henry Cejudo's era peaked in 2020, and he could have soared to greater heights in 2021 and 2022. But it's 2024 now. Things have changed, and a lot depends on Cejudo's next fight in February. It is a career-defining one for the messenger, the king of cringe, or Triple C, whatever you may call him. And while he may win against Merab Dvalishvili, one thing is for sure, he is not getting his hands on that bantamweight title again. Whether it's Sean O'Malley, Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili, Umar Nurmagomedov, or someone else, it won't be Henry Cejudo. But of course, we don't mind a healthy debate. So, will Henry Cejudo reclaim the bantamweight title? Or will he end up ruining his MMA record when it's all said and done? Share your thoughts, predictions, and opinions in the comments section below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell to stay in the loop on all things combat sports. Stay tuned, fight fans.